And you're ready.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to call this session to order. This is a regular session of the Mayor and Council, City of Bisbee, County of Cochise, State of Arizona. It's being held on Tuesday, April 5th, 2022 at 7:01 p.m. in the council chambers. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Juanetta Hill.
Present.
Councilmember Joni Giacomino.
Here.
Councilmember Frank Davis.
Here.
Mayor Ken Budge.
Here.
Councilmember Leslie Johns.
Here.
Councilmember Mel Sweet.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Anna Klein.
Here.
City Staff Stephen Pocken, City Manager Ashley Coronado, City Clerk Carrie Bagley, Finance Director Joelle Landers, Personnel Director Matt Gurney, Public Works Director Logan Dodd, Operations Manager Doug Taylor, City Planner Albert E. Chava, Police Chief Jim Richardson, Acting Fire Chief Joe Estes, City Attorney.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's great to see some audience here. We're coming back to maybe normal, getting there anyway. So for a moment of silence tonight, I know I keep harping on it, but the genocide that I see going on over in Ukraine just tears me up every time I turn the news on. I hate to even see it, but I just want us all to give a moment of silence to think about what's going on over there, and hopefully things will change. So take a moment, please. All right, thank you. Have a pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So for tonight, I don't have any real announcements, but I do have a proclamation I would like to read. So bear with me. This is a proclamation about fair housing. Whereas the Civil Rights Act of 1968, commonly known as the Federal Fair Housing Act, and the Fair Housing Amendments Act of 1988 prohibit discrimination in the sale, rental, leasing, and financing of housing or land to be used for the construction of housing or in the provision of brokerage services on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, disability, familiarity status, or national origin. And whereas the 1968 and 1988 Federal Fair Housing Acts declare that it is a national policy to ensure equal opportunities in housing, and whereas April has traditionally been designated as Fair Housing Month in the United States, now therefore I, Ken Budge, Mayor, City of Bisbee, do proclaim April as Fair Housing Month in the City of Bisbee, and hereby urge all citizens of this community to comply with the letter and spirit of the Fair Housing Law. So signed, 4th of April, 2022. All right, thank you all for that. We will move on to call the public. Get my paperwork out, and I think the first one to sign up, John.
Thank you. I understand.
Just state your name and
Oh.
citizen of Bisbee, that's all.
Okay, John Everhart,
Yeah.
citizen of Bisbee.
Go ahead,
All right.
thanks.
As I was saying, most of the people in the room know me from my insurance company over on Bisbee Road. I've been in the insurance business here locally for 17 years now. I represent and have the ability to write insurance in the state of Arizona, Utah, and throughout the entire country of Mexico, and I do. And I'm familiar with all their laws and the rules and the regulations. That being said, that was just enough background so that you can take me seriously when I say we have a huge brush fire problem around Bisbee that has gone unattended and largely noticed by the public, but there's nothing visibly done about it. Well, the insurance companies know that now. Where they used to use ISO ratings for areas like Bisbee, and that's how they came up with developing a premium to charge people. They no longer use the ISO ratings anymore. We are Bisbee Fire Protection Class 5, which is very good, and we get decent rates. But with a lot of companies, that's soon to change, and actually it's changing right now. I actually forwarded a lot of this information. I'm going back and forth with Mayor Budge on this. He's been wonderful. Ex-firefighter, he understands a lot of the issues. Today I talked to Robert Quintanar, the mine manager. I've reached out a couple times to Jim, the fire chief back there. I'm waiting to hear back from him and other people. The crisis management for the county, etc., because I think it's a time for action instead of talking about it. As I was sitting here, I listened to a lot of people like Joni and y'all talking about brush problems around town and how close it is to your house. Well, when you look down at a map over Bisbee, especially a historic old Bisbee, you'll see that it's surrounded by brush. And here's what they're doing now. They have a digital program that they use, and they don't use human interaction to feed off of. You can't turn to them and say, what do you mean I'm on a brush fire hazard, you're going to cancel my insurance? Because it's been determined now by their software. There's various brands of this software, but they all basically do the same thing. And they have 4 rating values now. It's low, it's medium, it's high, and it's very high. And most of the parts that we see are in very high, and that rating is from 80 to 100. And I mean, we actually have somebody in this room that was rated 90, and their property is really clean. They signed up for Firewise. But you can't talk to their digital software, and you can't tell their underwriters to disregard the output of the software. You can only tell them, this is how I feel, I'm frustrated because I can't do anything about it, and they say, have a nice day. That's the extent of the conversation. Because they took billions and billions of dollars of losses in fires. And everything west of the Mississippi, let's face it, is a fire hazard. But I don't want Bisbee to be another paradise. And the end result of paradise, we have people that move to Bisbee that are our clients now that moved here from paradise after the results. People talk about some of the end results of paradise was not only that there was brave people that moved back and rebuilt their houses. You want to bet that they're trimming all them brush and all those trees, and they're careful where they're planting things now? That their whole mindset is geared about, I hope this never happens again? They lost their friends. Look around the room, is any of you here worth burning up or having their property burned? I don't think so. I don't think anybody in this room would think that way. I think it's seriously something that we need to attend to. I know we have all these great plans for how we respond to a fire once it happens. And those areas where everybody gathers with the fire trucks, ambulance, police cars are surrounded by brush too. Dry brush, tall brush, thick brush. And I know, I gotta wind it up. But what my appeal is to the city is, tell me who we can talk to try to find some money, to try to find some energy to deal with this brush. The mining company came to my office today and talked to me and told me they're on board. Keep me in the loop. Maybe they're the people to turn to help get some of this revenue that we need to come in and get the brush and some of the, some of the equipment. I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I'm here to make an appeal to y'all because it won't be long that a lot of you in this room are going to be paying double just to have a dwelling policy, not a home policy, but like great comprehensive coverage. And I'm going to wrap it up now, Ken. But I just, I get, it has become an emotional issue with me right now. And that's pretty much what you're hearing, because I don't want anybody in this room to get hurt. I don't want anybody in this room's property to be lost. And it's what a lot of insurance agents would say, oh, great, your policies are going to double. That means my commissions are going to double. I don't feel that way, and I think all those that know me know I'd rather see us develop a great comprehensive prevention plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And next I have Lisa. Signed up. Thanks. Just state your name for the record and basically if you're a member of the city or resident or out of the resident.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. My name is Lisa Bredeman. I'm a resident of Bisbee. I live on Tombstone Canyon in Old Bisbee off of Lockland Road. And I'm here in support of my insurance agent, John Everhart. John contacted me a couple of weeks ago to explain that our current insurance company, Travelers, was going to be non-renewing our policy. And as the old administrator I am, I said, why? And looked into it some more with him. We had some conversations. And I wanted to understand more of what's going on. And he said it wasn't just me. It was lots of his clients in Old Bisbee. And then I heard around town anecdotally that acquaintances were having the same issue. Non-renewal, cancellation, Old Bisbee, related to fire ratings. So I looked into it some more and said, I learned that the ISO rating hadn't changed. So what had changed? And after some research, John was looking into this with great diligence. We learned that it was due to a new database from a company called CoreLogic. Nothing against CoreLogic, big data company. They provide information to the insurance industry. It's a relatively new database system they're using, and I have a copy of a paper for you that I can pass around. This is just off of their website, but that's not really the issue. The issue here is that we have a concern, I have a concern, that's not just me, it's your concern as the elected officials for Bisbee, that we have a national historic area, a very important area that many people like me have come and made significant investments in the last few years. We've taken a property, we took it down to the ground and rebuilt it completely. We live in an area where us and all of our neighbors are members of Firewise, and yet the quotes I'm receiving on insurance for less insurance than I currently have are 50% more than when we first moved into the house after having renovated it. It would be a really significant burden of property owners in this national historic area where they're unable to obtain property insurance, unable to obtain sufficient insurance, or experience onerous insurance rates. And that may even cause some to forego insurance completely. So I don't know what the solution here is. I'm only, for me, this was the beginning of trying to understand what the problem is, and I think the council really has an obligation at this point to understand what the extent of the problem is, why the problem is occurring, and what can be done to fix it. I know you've taken a lot of steps, and the professional staff has as well, to apply for grants to enhance the firefighting system. And Firewise, of course, is a tremendous volunteer effort, but it looks like it may take more than that to affect this problem. And let's not minimize this. This is a national historic area. There are 1,200 to 1,400 buildings involved in Old Bisbee, that if that area lost insurance, that would be really significant. It may be necessary to involve the state legislature as well and get other resources involved. And I think that you have that leverage because we have that designation in this community. So thank you for listening. I'm just one of those people putting this at your feet. I'm happy to volunteer and get involved. I'm sure you find a lot of people in town, just as we have lots of people in Firewise involved in trying to develop positive solutions to this problem. But it is time to be really aware of this. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll be moving on now. So what we're going to get to is general business. Our general business first will be accounts payable. Do I have all?
I move that we pay accounts payable in the amount of $331,288.71.
I'll second that. Do we have any questions or comments?
As always, the water in the park. I know some of it has to do with the fact that we have large pipes. But have you started watering again as far as the Vista goes?
That was for the Vista?
Well, it's for two of them, it's for Vista and
So with the
Park. Grassy Park.
with the Vista Park, that's used also for our water truck and our Vector truck. And so we've been using the Vector truck a lot lately because we've got a lot of different sewer problems. So that's with the Vista. With Grassy Park, we are continually figuring out the problem or seeing if there is a problem with the Vista. We talked with Arizona Water. They're going to send out somebody else again to check the meter, make sure it's operating correctly. What it looks like, I talked to Arizona Water, what they think and what we might end up having to do, and they said that it might be the problem of the toilets themselves are leaking. We've shut everything off and the meters aren't moving, but something's going on. So we're still investigating and trying to get to the bottom of this.
Anything else?
Just have one.
Okay, sure, go ahead now.
We have the, page 15, Highland Products Bicycle Repair Station, $2,020.
Yes, good evening, everyone. The bicycle repair station was part of the purchases made under the library grant that the library received from Freeport. And so this is a pass-through.
Oh, was it passed?
It's a pass-through.
Oh, pass-through,
Yeah,
okay.
we got the grant money and
Okay.
we bought it, we have to put it through our.
Well, one back, okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? Anyone else? Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve accounts payable in the amount of $331,288.71. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes unanimously, 7-0. We'll move on to the approval of the consent agenda. We all have it in front of us. There's items A through M tonight. It includes 3 sets of minutes approvals, 2 committee assignments, one resignation and 1 appointment, parking facility use permit for Easter seals, to use some of the parking around the ballpark for the Bisbee Blues. And then it looks like we have a whole bunch of special liquor license, again from Electric Brewing and also Club Kilimanjaro. Does anybody have anything that they feel they need to? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the consent agenda.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda as presented. Could I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Hill,
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes unanimously. All right. Excuse me while I get caught up on my computer.
That was a chunk of paper right there. That's the consent agenda.
Yeah, that's why I try to use a computer instead of a printer. So we'll move on to old business. Old business is item number 3. This is to declare a prior auction as void and redo public auction of designated surplus property located adjacent to 348 Williams Avenue. The vacant parcel is described as a portion of APN 103-60-265C. Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I'd like to read into the record a statement to Mayor and Council. The following public auction is coming back to the Council because the wrong parcel number 103-60266B, was included with the prior notice and posting of the auction. And when it was brought to Council on March 15th, 2022, which is not a city-owned parcel, it was a mistake. In order to correct this error, In the prior process, the property is being brought back to a public auction tonight. Would you like me to read the,
Well, I will, this is the time and place for, well, yeah. First, I want to ask if there's any questions.
I have questions.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so it said it was aired on, originally when it was posted at 3,000 square feet, which we found that it was not at $2 a foot, which would have put it at 6,000 over the $5,000 threshold. As we note that it's 2,400 square foot at a $2 square foot cost, that would put it at a $4,800 threshold, which means that it falls under the public auction if the person should have been allowed to buy it, as they have other properties through the city. So as we are correcting it, my question is, why wasn't it just pulled, corrected completely, and put in that proper category of the $2 a foot at $4,800 and allowed to be purchased instead of going forward like no other?
I can address that. That question was asked to be legal, and it was because the process had started as a public auction process, and because of the error, it was appropriate to bring it back as a public auction process, so it didn't have an appearance as if we were pulling it and then putting it into a private process when we had it as a public process to begin with. Also, that $5,000 threshold is a may. The council may do it, or you can require it. So because, one, we had to bring it back to, and I've requested there be one motion to deem the prior action as void and then resubmit it for public auction, was to avoid any allegations of impropriety or favoritism or any issues that could have. Now, if it had started as that process, then my recommendation would have been, yes, continue to have it as that process as we provide for in city code. But because it had started and it was initially estimated, and this application was submitted long ago, to keep it as that public process, so there was no issues of somebody coming and saying, well, the city, you unilaterally came in, you had this public auction, an individual bid on it, and they were the high bidder, and then you took that property and said, well, no, that was the improper property, so we're gonna cancel that bid, and then we're not gonna put it back out to public auction, and we're just going to put it under our private purchase option under the code, and that's why it's brought back this way.
So why don't we just yank it and leave it fallow, considering all the errors that went with it? Considering it was incorrectly posted at 3,000 square feet, which it was not, which I found rather disturbing that there was no survey with it in the first place. I mean, we're still giving that unfavorable view that, some people get it anyway, and some people, their property gets put to auction. Does that make sense what I just said?
No, it does, and sometimes there are errors in how they're published or how it's, especially, when you don't have a lot of meets and bounds, and it's difficult for surveyors to do a lot of accurate surveying in old Bisbee, but because the application had started, and the individual that submitted it, that we felt it was appropriate to continue it through that process, and we can address these issues and other issues that come up, just like I think the reason the $5,000 ordinance was established was because of a prior issue with a prior auction, and as we go through this process and we realize, okay, this may be an issue with additional properties, we can address that through a code amendment and how we go through that process and make it to where it is fair and open and public as possible. And my opinion is there's nothing more fair and open as a public auction where anybody is allowed to come in and look at it. Now, there are certain times where that's not necessarily appropriate, because you have situations like I think what happened back in when the ordinance was changed, where you had a very small sliver of property that had a portion of a structure that was on it, and it wouldn't be appropriate to allow somebody else to come in purchase that from somebody else and then have them come and say, well, now you have to remove this portion of your structure because it's on my property.
Which leads me to my second question. Is this property now gonna cause a landlock? And if so, what kind of headache is that gonna cause? And if so, is there any way in the future to include egress, I guess is the word, is that the word? That if any future properties that are sold, because if this is sold and causes it to be landlocked, then what happens? Then we have a headache on our hands too. Does that make sense?
No, absolutely, and you shouldn't have a situation where you sell property and you end up with a landlocked piece of property, because typically under state statute, you're not allowed to create a landlocked piece of property. You always have to have some type of access easement, whether it's an access easement or right of way. You know, all
Right.
property should have access to that property.
But if we're auctioning this off like this, there's no guarantee that's gonna occur, because if the people that are adjacent to that property are not the end buyers, you know, then there's a possibility that it is gonna end up getting lost.
Can I take a stab at that, please? Okay, so in your packet, you have this drawing,
Right.
okay? And the subject property, for tonight's auction is
Right.
this little piece here that's not part of the bigger lot there, okay? So you have Williams Avenue coming on the other side, which is a right of way. And so I'm unsure how the assertion that anybody can get landlocked or will lock anybody off, when we've got Williams Avenue coming right past the opposite side of those buildings.
I asked if it was gonna cause a landlock, and if yes. if
The answer is
that's-
no.
But in the future, we need to address that.
Right.
Possibility.
And that raises a concern, and I think that was one of the issues that was attempted to be addressed with the ordinances. You know, say for example, like you said, somebody other than the applicant comes in and bids on it and purchases that, and that then creates a landlocked issue between that property and the other applicant's property, then we have an issue. We need to look at and propose some potential amendments to that code to allow for those. I think the code kind of addresses it to where it talks about where that property is specifically situated to where it only benefits the adjacent property, you know,
Or has had.
or historically has been used or occupied. Because one of the issues is, you know, for example, if I own a piece of property and I have a shed on my property and it's 2 feet over on my neighbor's property, and it's been that way for 20 years, then I have a legal argument for an easement by prescription, where it's been that way and it was never corrected, and so I legally have the right to argue that I can continue with that. Now, that doesn't apply to municipal property. You can never establish an easement by prescription on municipal property. So if I have a piece of property and my shed is halfway on, you know, a portion of the city property, I can never establish an easement by prescription. I either have to get a negotiated easement with the municipality or purchase that section that I intrude on if possible. And that happens quite often. But there are concerns that can be addressed through looking at the code and how to, you know, better improve the process, you know, making sure that it's fair and equitable. You know, for example, one of my conversations today on this process is that, you know, I believe that if you're gonna do the $5,000 or less, or you could even not have a $5,000 limit, but if you have a piece of property that totally just benefits one other property, and it's not gonna go to public auction, then the applicant should be required to obtain an appraisal for that, so that the city then has documentation as to the value of that property, as opposed to the public auction process. So there's a number of different ways to tweak and make that process better.
One last question. If it was originally $2 at 3,000 square foot, why is it still $6,000 at 24?
That's the price we set, isn't it?
But it was a
Right.
mistake in the footage, so shouldn't the price be amended?
Not necessarily.
But what it says in code, it says the mayor and council sets the price. If you would like to, no, I mean, if somebody wants to make a motion to lower the price, we can do that as a minimum price. But that's what it says in the post.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think it can be fairly stated after the auction 2 weeks ago that the market price now in that neighborhood is $3 a square foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I add something to that.
Sure, go ahead.
This property was carried for about, it might have been 2 years during COVID when the council meetings were on Zoom, and we needed a live meeting for a live auction, or a public meeting for a public auction. Also, the city is under no obligation to sell any property. This is all up to you. And it has come before planning and zoning and you. And it was the 3,000 square feet and the fact that it went to auction were not disputed by anyone, including the applicant, prior to the bidding 2 weeks ago. I think it was 2 weeks ago. And so there was a strategy that was sent to me by the applicant, that the reason this wasn't purchased as 2 lots, which is what it should have been purchased as, 10 and 11, was because he was trying to keep the first purchase, which he made, I believe, 2.5, 3 years ago, under the 5,000 square foot, the $5,000 number, and then he would come back and do this. That was his argument, that this indeed was to be not at a public auction. I find that disingenuous in the attempt to purchase property, but I also feel that he would have spoken up about the auction. He even sent, well, the person didn't show up, but he had someone lined up. He and I spoke on the phone, and he had someone lined up to take or to bid on it here in person, and that didn't happen that night. And I think by the grace of whomever, that this was saved for him to bid again, and I think he should be pretty happy with that. And you also have the right to pull it right now if you wanted to. So, did you want to read that or me?
I'm just taking any more questions, or anybody else that has questions. It's come down to my observing this, the fact that we as the mayor and council have pretty much a complete open decision on what we want to set as our price. We ask for what you recommend as a minimum price. We can raise that or lower it as we see fit. It says so in the code. It was set originally for 3,000 square feet because that was the guesstimate. The applicant said that was fine. Then it was actually surveyed and found out it was actually a little less. It's really hard to tell before you actually have a survey. And there was no complaints until now. All of a sudden there is. So I think we move forward as is, and I will open it to a public auction and see where we go. That's, to me, the most fair way to take care of any property that is not directly associated with somebody else's service.
Mayor, if I could we just do a quick motion to
Sure.
declare the prior action as void and to reopen the auction?
Yeah, we gotta do that.
I know it's not as a motion process in there, but just so the record's clear on it.
Yeah, I move to declare the prior auction for that we did 2 weeks ago, which we did listed as APN 10360-266B as void, and we are going to redo the auction.
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Oh, hearing one nay, passes 6-1. All right, at this point in time, I will hold a public auction. This is the time and place. It has been designated for a public auction of certain real property that has been designated as surplus city property. The property that will be offered for sale, the highest bidder consists of approximately 3,000 square feet. It's now being determined 24 something or square feet by a survey. For a vacant parcel described as a portion of APN 10360-265C The remaining city-owned portions of lots 10 and 11 located adjacent to 348 Williams Avenue. This property is being offered on an as-is, where-is basis with no warranties of fitness for any particular purpose. The city will provide the successful bidder with a quitclaim deed to the subject property upon confirmation of receipt of the required payment. No deed will be issued until the full bid amount has been deposited with the city and any required reimbursements of the application and publication costs have been paid in full. This bid will proceed as a public auction, and each interested bidder having a reasonable opportunity to make a higher bid. If any written bids have been submitted, these will be opened first. If there are multiple bidders, the city will accept more than one bid that meets or succeeds the minimum bid to allow for an alternative backup bid in the event the highest bidder is not able to fulfill all the requirements of the sale after a reasonable opportunity to do so. The minimum bid for this property has been set at $6,000, which equals $2 per square foot. We are now opening the bidding process. Do I have any written bids?
No written bids, but I do have Mr. James Terry, and he has raised his hand.
And he has what?
He has raised his hand to
Oh,
bid.
okay. So I'll take the.
Could I just thank the council and everybody for having the meeting and having us here. I just want to say that I will not grant any kind of easement of any kind across my property.
Okay, sir, I'm just taking bids right now, not a statement, so
Well,
would you
just
please?
to let you know, it's on the record. On the record, I will not take any negotiation.
All right,
for
either
any
you will
easement
bid or I'll
across
move
my
on.
property.
Sir, what's your bid?
Thank you.
Your
Thank
bid-
you.
Your bid is what? You have a bid?
No, sir.
Okay, no bid. Is there anyone else interested in bidding on this piece of property? Going once, going twice, seeing no bids, there is no acceptance for this sale. All right. We will move on now to new business. Excuse me?
Just remains city property.
Just remains, yeah, just raise your hand and I'll recognize and ask away. Yeah, no problem. I was thought there might be a question. Great. Okay, this is under new business. This is item number 4. This is a apology to Ms. Vogue regarding the settlement agreement. Mr. Estes.
Mayor and council, as you're aware, there was a settlement agreement that was brought to council for approvals to form, and that included as one of the provisions, a public apology to Ms. Vogue with regard to the process and the actions and how things occurred that ended up resulting in the lawsuit. And I think it would be appropriate if Steve expressed his feelings on that. I don't think anybody really accepts an apology from an attorney, do you?
Only if he steps on my toes.
I'm gonna remain neutral on that, thank you. Excuse me. Thank you and good evening. As you are aware, there was a incident that occurred a couple of years ago that resulted in the failure of a retaining wall in the vicinity of the home of Ms. Chris Vogue, which resulted in her having to leave that property. And as a result of actions by the city, she was unable to return to enjoy the property she owned for several months after the fact. When it came about that we looked at all of the actions that occurred during that period of time, it became clear that the city had an obligation that it did not fulfill. And that obligation was to bring someone in of proper professional competency that could determine for us the safety of the surrounding area of Ms. Vogue's home and let her know whether or not it was safe to return, or if not, what actions could be taken to make it safe to return. As a result, she has not returned to the property. In fact, she now still lives in Bisbee, but in a different home. And considerable expense to her, plus the anguish that she went through not knowing what was going to happen with the property. We entered into what was called a settlement negotiation with the Superior Court a few weeks ago, which resulted in the settlement agreement that you all approved. During that process, I had an opportunity to talk with Ms. Beauvais a little bit, not a whole lot, but a little bit, and express to her my personal apologies for the actions that led up to the great amount of discomfort that she saw over the last couple of years. And I want to reiterate now for the public to know that we sincerely regret the actions that we took that led to her being displaced from her home. We feel that we were able to reach an agreement with her on what would be a fair settlement, which you all approved at the last meeting. Since that time, Ms. Beauvais and I have had an opportunity to discuss the matter a little bit more outside of the context of the legal system. And probably sometime next week, we're going to get an opportunity to visit with each other personally to discuss some of the other factors surrounding what occurred in that incident and what we can do to perhaps do a better job in the future. And so anyway, our apologies, and she may be on Facebook tonight listening to the meeting. So Chris, I thank you very much for coming to an agreement, and please accept our apologies on behalf of the city of Bisbee and all of its employees and mayor and council for these actions. And I look forward to working with you in the future to find ways to do things better when incidents that displace homeowners are considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments from council? Seeing none, I'll move on. Item number 5 is discussion and possible approval to allow the Queen Mine tour manager to purchase a lot of 4 used locomotives. I don't know what brand they are, but
They're mansions.
What are they?
They're mansions.
Mansions. Huh?
Yeah.
Is that the name of a guy that was a miner?
No, that's the manufacturer.
Oh,
It was later bought out by Bisbee.
Anyway, go ahead, Doug.
So really get the approval of purchase of 4 of them. I found a mining contractor in Canada went out of business, and they're selling them through 7 equipment. The condition's fairly decent on them. It looks like they've got good wheels. The parts are rare and difficult to acquire. It's just like trying to restore old cars. We're milking by. They happen to be all the same model that we're currently using, the dominant model, I should say. And they haven't been made for a long time. Actually, the latest ad I can see for them is 1958. I do think they were made up into the early 60s, but I'm not absolutely positive on that.
Do they come with new batteries?
I know they do.
I think that's what should be coming to us next.
Yeah, the wheels alone, I looked at the wheels, I'm looking for, currently wheels, if I get them made, are about 3,000 a piece.
Yeah,
So even if I estimated it was about $2,000 each wheel, so then I get the axles. I paid $400 just for a nut for an axle. Yeah, so the parts are, well, they're industrial parts. They're fairly expensive.
There's not very many more left, so.
No, I don't think there was ever a lot of them totally made, and most of them have gone overseas.
All right, questions or comments besides mine? Go ahead.
Yeah, so you'll be using this for just parts then?
Parts. I did talk to the vendor, and he felt that maybe one of them will be able to actually run. Yeah. Currently, I have 4 running. Normally, I try to keep a flow of 5 of them, but one of them died because an axle went out. So I will be able to get one of mine running just from the parts off this. Okay. Now, the last one that we found in Canada, all it had was an electrical short. and I'm actually currently running that motor. Yeah, but that was, assuming that was a fluke, and that these will just be parts. Yeah.
Okay. So you foresee using this for how long? I mean, how much parts you think you can
Well,
extract
this will
from
keep me in
these?
business for probably 10 years or so. Yeah.
Okay, so it's a good investment.
Yeah, I paid not quite 40,000 for the last locomotive, just one.
Just one.
One locomotive, 2 locomotives, but that was in running condition. But the wheels were on that one, and actually I was hoping to swap wheels with one of these, yeah, for that one.
Okay.
Metal wheels. Anything else? Yes, go ahead.
This includes delivery, right?
Yes, that includes shipping. Yeah. I think the shipping came in at,
1,500.
yeah, $4,500.
They're heavy.
Yeah, they weigh a ton and a half each, you know.
And looks like you have some money to invest, so.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
It's in the budget now, it's okay.
I checked.
Questions?
I'm surprised Mel didn't ask if this was Canadian dollars or US dollars.
Well, that would
I
be.
think it says on the quote, US dollars.
You could have saved some money.
It's gonna be rubles.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion, if somebody wants.
I move to approve the purchase of 4 used Manta locomotives from Savannah Equipment Ltd. for the total amount of $42,500.
I'll second that. I have a motion and a second. Item 5 to approve Queen Mine Tour Manager to purchase 4 locomotives for an amount of $42,500. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill,
Yes.
Councilmember Giacomino,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet,
All right.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes unanimously, 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. Keep those tours. Go. All right. Our next 4 items, 6, 7, 8, and 9, are going to be yours, Leslie. I guess we have to take I wish we just do one motion to accept them all, but I guess we have to do individual. But you could present all 4 at once, and then we could just vote on them.
Oh.
Because Karen would like to speak to them, and
Okay.
it's just a little change in policy here, but if I have the.
That's totally fine.
Okay, so start off with 6, which is the recommendation of the Bisbee Arts Commission to fund a grant application for the Copper Queen Library in the amount of $500.
Okay, so this is a grant application from the library to the Arts Commission. And what they're going to be doing is working with a stained glass artist named Nicole Piper, and she's going to install a giant piece depicting the flora and fauna of the desert right on the main floor of the library. And the $500 that the Arts Commission is going to be covering is going to artists' fees for this. So, any questions from anybody about that?
Well, I guess kind of a question. I think it's a great idea, and I think it'll really add to the area. I just kind of wish there would have been like a rough sketch or a rough rendering of what it might look like.
Okay,
So, but I think it's a good idea.
yeah. John?
Is it lead or foil? Oh, do you have any idea what?
Karen, do you know?
I'm assuming it's lead, right?
I think it's nice.
I just signed up for the 4 items. Hello, I'm Karen Schumacher, Chair of the Bisbee Arts Commission, and I was just here for that simple reason, if you had a question. When we passed it, we did receive a drawing, so I don't know if that.
Didn't make it in the
It
packet.
didn't make it into a packet.
No, and we can always, if you decide to wait on it, we can send it to you. We did approve it. And as far as I know, it is foil. I mean, it's lead, because foil, you can only do a certain size for. Otherwise, like I said, if there's any other questions on here, I have all the contracts, so if you have any questions for me, just let me know.
Yeah, thank you, Karen.
Okay, well, let's just handle it, just make a motion and we'll.
Oh, okay, so,
Sorry.
okay. I move to approve the recommendation from the Bisbee Arts Commission to City Council to fund a grant application from the Copper Queen Library in the amount of $500 from the Bisbee Arts Commission Fund.
Second.
A motion and a second to fund a grant application in the amount of $500 to the Copper Queen Library from the Bisbee Arts Commission. All those, any other comments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, chair says ayes have it. Move on to item number 7.
Okay,
This will be part of the rental agreement for the new Bisbee Arts Commission, art show.
so, yeah, this is the rental agreement to rent the building at 16 Erie Street owned by David Rose for the exhibition of fine local artists that will be in conjunction with the Bisbee Festival of the Arts. The exhibition will be for a period of 5 weeks, beginning Thursday, October 20, 2022, through Sunday, November 27th, 2022. This includes setup and breakdown. So.
Questions? Let me just make a go ahead. Just a comment, I attended a meeting the other night put on by the Bisbee Arts Commission for a bunch of the local artists to start, looking at this, and what this is the one piece of art from all of our, this is local artists will be shown. They can submit 3 or so, and then they'll get one picked, and it should be a great showing of what talent is available in our local artists here. I mean, it will be from one thing to another, and it should be quite something to, I'm just glad I'm not hanging it. Go ahead, City Manager.
Yeah, thank you, sir. I just like to always mention when something is supported through the American Rescue Plan Act dollars that you have approved already back earlier this year to help support this particular event. And I think that, based on everything I'm hearing from people who are working on the show, it's money that's going to be extremely well spent.
It's always fun to have that first one. It's a bit of a learning experience, but then again, the second one will be easier. I hear his head over there going, All right. Motion. I have a motion on item number 7.
Yes, let me find the motion.
How about I make it, you got a second?
Thank you, Ken.
Okay, I move to approve the rental agreement for the Bisbee Arts Commission to rent the building at 16 Erie Street owned by David Rose for their exhibition of fine local art that will be in conjunction with the Bisbee Festival of the Arts event. This exhibition will be a period of 5 weeks beginning October 20th, 2022 through Sunday, November 27th. This includes setup and breakdown. This is for approval of $3,000.
Second?
A motion and a second for item number 7. I'm not gonna read that. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? The ayes have it. Moving forward, item number 8. This will be discussion again from the Bisbee Arts Commission for the use of school property. Go ahead.
Okay, this is just to use the Lowell School parking lot for that time period, located at 100 Douglas Road. Any questions? Okay,
This will be for 2 days.
for 2 days, yes. Okay, I move to approve to allow the Bisbee Arts Commission to request the use of school property from the Bisbee Unified School District Number 2, Lowell Junior High School, located at 100 Douglas Road, for the use of their parking lot for the Bisbee Arts Commission Festival of the Arts event.
I second that.
We have a motion and a second for item number 8 to request the use of the Bisbee Unified School District parking lot at the junior high. All those in favor, any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, chair determines ayes have it. So moved. And one more, number 9, this is discussion of possible approval of the Bisbee Arts Commission to pay for some septic service portables. A real fun one. Not necessary. Go ahead.
Any questions?
No.
All right, make the
All right.
motion.
I move to approve the Bisbee Arts Commission to pay stand-back septic service for rental of portable units to be used at their Festival of the Arts event.
And this will be for a total amount of $832.03. We have a motion and a second to approve the Bisbee Arts Commission to pay for rentals of portable units for the Festival of the Arts. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved, the ayes have it. All right. You bet, wasn't that was painless.
Thank you.
Anything for Karen?
I wanted to make one remark about something that Anna Klein was bringing up about the stained glass. If it does make you feel better, it is 100% removable. It will not be a permanent window. It's a window that they're placing on top of one of the older windows.
Behind you.
Oh, I
Behind
know,
it,
okay,
exactly.
permanent.
How big is it?
Sorry, it's I can't remember. It was approved, the library approved it, and then we passed it, but I don't remember this. I believe it's 3 by 4 or something.
It goes right above the front doors.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's just a regular window. Oh,
Exactly.
I thought it was,
No, no. So,
We can pull it from the Arts Commission packet and email it to all of you.
and if you can't find it for some reason, I'll send it to you. But thank you very much, everyone.
All right, thanks for your work. Well, moving along, I have a 21 item agenda. Here we go, item 10. Discussion and possible approval of a notice of intent to adopt ordinance O-22-04 authorizing the sale and transfer of city property located adjacent to and west of 104D and 144 Laughlin Avenue, an existing access road to 140 and 142 Laughlin. Doug Tate.
Mayor and council, this is another COVID property that was held during the COVID period. I think there were somewhere in the neighborhood of 10 properties at that point. And this is a public auction that was held on March 15th, 2022. And mayor and council unanimously voted to accept the bid from Mr. and Mrs. Houseman in the amount of $16,700. Approval of the notice of intent. Let's see, my eyes aren't doing too well tonight. I'm not trying to look cool with these on, although I do. The approval of the notice of intent ordinance will approve the transfer of this property to Mr. and Mrs. Houseman.
Just real quick clarification, this is notice of intent, it'll come before us again one more time for the actual transfer. Any questions on this? This is what we approved at the last meeting. 16,700. Seeing none, I move to approve the notice of intent to adopt ordinance O-2204 authorizing the sale and transfer of city property located adjacent to and west of 104D and 144 Laughlin Avenue and the existing access road to 140 and 142 Laughlin.
I second it.
Have a motion and a second for item number 10, notice of intent to adopt ordinance O-2204. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill,
Councilmember Hill.
I guess I didn't hear that. And this is just a notice of
okay. Councilmember Giacomino,
Aye.
Councilmember Davis,
Aye.
Councilmember Johns,
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein,
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right, item number 11. This is discussion and possible approval of a purchase asphalt from K&G in amount not to exceed $272,000. And Matt, you're on.
Thank you, Mary.
You can
Council.
take that out if you need to.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks.
And I have the next 5, so you can just
Yeah.
relax.
I just want you to
I
chair.
don't know if you can relax.
Well,
Go ahead.
I do have a correction on this, council, agenda item. I found out yesterday that the price for asphalt has gone up. So I wasn't able to get it in for this, but I did want to let you know, if you're okay approving it. If not, I can bring it again. So the price is $310,000. So it's an extra, 30,000 pretty much is what it comes out to. And then we added 20% on top of that, just in case we have, and that's not to exceed 310. So it might end up being less than that, might be around 300,000, but that's just in case, there's something comes up, we need to do something extra, if something happens, we just wanna have that buffer.
If oil goes down, will they lower the price?
I don't know.
So nothing goes down.
We can ask, can't we?
We can ask.
Okay.
So previously, it was $85 a ton, and it now is $95 a ton. So it went up $10 a ton for 1 ton of asphalt. So, and this is going over. This asphalt will be used clear from parts of San Jose area, Galena, and Old Bisbee for this.
Okay, questions?
How about Warren? I mean, the inside streets, some of them are in terrible shape.
Yes.
Holes and potholes. I mean, I can't even drive now.
I will be, sorry, I got a little close. I will be coming to you guys, hopefully in July, with a much larger sum that will almost finish Warren, so.
Okay. Because, I get requests from,
Yes.
people, they always complaining.
That is the goal. We are getting to that by this year, to Warren.
Okay.
So, this is what we can fit in between now and the end of July, the beginning of July, in this year, sorry.
Go ahead, Anna.
Well, he answered my question. I just wanted to say, I was gonna ask about a price increase from KEMG because I can't imagine that they would have just let it ride as it had been, so.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I think it's worthy to note that a key ingredient in asphalt is oil.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
But
It's not the sand and gravel getting more up there.
No, it's the oil.
I've got 10 gallons of waste oil at the house.
Everybody drained their car.
That's the wrong kind of oil.
Oh, shoot. Well, that can't hurt for trying. All right, more questions? Comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion. I'll just handle it. I move to approve the purchase of asphalt not to exceed $310,000 from KEG.
Second that.
I have a motion and a second to approve the purchase of asphalt not to exceed $310,000. Roll call, that's too much.
Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Moving right through the oil prices. Here we go. Item number 12. Discussion possible approval to authorize the city manager, Stephen Pocken, to sign the release for property damage at 229A Tombstone Canyon, paid by Travelers Insurance Company in the amount of $84,395. Go ahead, Matt.
So, back, around the beginning of February, we had, a city-owned retaining wall that had fallen, and that borders the drainage ditch, along Tombstone Canyon. Due to the proximity of a pine tree, on the resident's property, I received a quote for, $84,395 to replace that. And that not only replaces it, but also the concrete that's there, we'll keep that and use it for the other side of the retaining wall that's supporting the road. There's some need there. So that helps the price come down, so they don't have to pull all that concrete out. And so this is just to authorize the city manager to sign the release to get, once we sign this release, Travelers will cut us a check for that amount.
Questions?
I have a question. So the cost, the 84,000 we're getting, will that cover?
The $84,385 I was quoted to do that job.
Okay, and that's what we're getting from the insurance company.
And that's what
So that just
pretty much zeroes it out.
Okay.
I Mr. Mayor.
But
just-
steel and concrete's got up to it.
That's the reason I'm asking, does
We
it
don't,
cover it?
because of the next item means we go out to bid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
actually, since this is the travelers, this was the homeowner's insurance policy, not the city's insurance.
Right.
So, this is kind of a first, I've never seen a wall failure that an insurance company paid for before.
Yeah.
So, but we don't tell anybody.
Well, yeah, you're on Facebook, so.
Travelers.
Is it one of the old ones?
Yeah, it's one of the
Oh, okay.
main ones along the drainage ditch.
It's the Mule Gulch wall.
Oh,
Yep.
okay.
Yep, but it's not on the side of the road, it's opposite of the
right.
road.
It's up from
It's a
two
yard
east,
sustainer.
it's up from two east about, just before that new little building,
Okay.
which is
Yep.
after that little building.
Yeah, it's after that.
Yeah. Any other? See none, how about motion?
I move to approve the authorization of City Manager Stephen Parkin to sign the release for property damage to 229A Tombstone Canyon paid by Travelers Personal Insurance Company at the amount of $84,395.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve item 12 as listed for city manager Pocken to sign for some money from Traveler. Yay.
That's the most authority I've had all day.
Well, that's all we're gonna give you to. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 7-0. Okay, moving on to 13. This is another one for you, Matt. This is asking that we go out to approve a proposal to replace that wall. Go ahead.
Alright, so this is, since we, got that approval, I'm asking that we, to go out for, bids for proposal, to replace the wall at 229A Tombstone Canyon. That wall is 70 feet long, 8 foot tall, and 12 inches wide, with a 1 foot, deep footer. And this is just to go out, for proposals, for bids, and we'll go from there.
Your sealed bids.
Yes, so bids.
In your opinion, how much do you think, I mean, based on what you just mentioned, probably we're gonna be needing a lot more than 84,000, we'll be using that and much more.
This quote was just about a month old,
Yeah, okay,
so it shouldn't change much.
okay.
And this is the quote I was given, but was from the same contractor that did
Okay,
10B.
that's good.
But they'll have to, if they want this job, they'll have to put in for the bid.
Now they know how much we have.
Not to exceed.
Okay, oh, Anna, go ahead.
I think I have a little bit of a concern here, with a wall that long and that high, shouldn't it be around at least 18 inches wide and maybe about 2 feet deep, rather than 12 wide and 1 foot deep?
That is according to MAG specs, MAG standards, which is the Maricopa Association. Yeah. It's what contractors and everybody and municipalities go by for construction.
Okay, but that's not a typical, that channel is not typical of other areas.
This will be significant. This will be a significant upgrade from the wall that was there. There was no rebar in that one. There was no footer in that previous wall. So that lasted for 100 years, or at least 100 years or more. So this is significant.
Well, I know, and I mean, but I still have concerns with the channel, and I mean, I know this isn't the time, but I think we really need to address that, and as far as cleaning it out to stop the undermining of what is still there, so.
Yeah, and part of this wall project is breaking up that concrete of the old one, and there is a void on the opposite side of the stream right there that that 84,000, it also includes them breaking up the concrete, getting it underneath, and then pumping underneath full of concrete so we can clear that void.
So we're using the spoils.
Yes, and that also saves us money, so that they don't have to pull all that concrete out of the bottom of the ditch as well.
Right. So the 12 inches wide is how thick the wall is, not necessarily the footer.
No, yeah, the footer is about 4 feet wide, about 3 to 4 feet wide.
The 12 inches, I got that too.
Yeah.
I had that 12-inch footer, that was how thick my wall is, 12 inches thick. That's a lot of concrete. Yeah. Good. Anybody else? All right, how about another?
I move to approve the request proposal for replacement of the wall at 229A Tombstone Canyon.
I second.
Motion and a second for item number 13 to go for request for proposal to replace the wall at 229A Tombstone. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. All right, move on to item 13. As soon as I get there. There we go. Okay, this will be, whoops, I'm sorry, 14. No, I'm losing it, it's getting late. There we go. This is a discussion of possible approval to accept a donation from Bisbee Vogue Inc. for a shade structure and installation at Higgins Park. Go ahead, Ms. Matt.
So Bisbee Vogue is asking the council to accept a donation of a 30-foot by 36 shade structure with installation included. And this shade structure is going over the outdoor fitness center at Higgins Park. So it's that was donated as well, and this will kind of preserve it and make it last longer. And that it comes out to, it's about, and you can see in some of the final cost was $28,980 that this shade structure cost with installation.
Question, go ahead.
Is it breathable or does the rain go through? Is it just like one of the normal wind
Yeah,
and shade
it
ones?
has a
So
picture on here.
yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's not, if you've seen, I know you've seen the pool shades
Right.
along the fence. This is a thicker, this is one of the best shade structures you can get in the market right
But it's a mesh still, like so when
Yes.
the wind blows, it'll still breathe
now.
and
Yes,
you'll still get rained on.
It's right here in the
Oh, okay.
general detail.
Yeah.
yeah, you can read all that. You can,
You can have Doug read it for you.
Yeah, right, yeah. Where's your weight?
but this will significantly help the.
See, that's what I get. Okay. This is getting late. Okay. Any other questions? All right. You're my man tonight. Give me a motion.
All right, I move to approve and accept the donation from Bisbee Vogue Inc. of a shade structure and installation at Higgins Park.
Second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. This would be for item 14 to approve the donation of $29,000 donation for a shade structure of the installation at Higgins Park over the fitness court. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Hearing none, the ayes have it. So moved. Thank you, Matt. Oh, we got one more. Oh, jeez, okay. All right.
Everybody's worth out of that.
Jeez, how's that? One chair? Okay. Item 15, discussion of possible approval of a grant agreement between the state of Arizona and the city of Bisbee for pavement preservation at the Bisbee Municipal Airport.
So the state of Arizona is asking for a grant agreement between themselves and the city of Bisbee. The state and the sponsor, which does desire to share in the cost for pavement preservation at the Bisbee Municipal Airport. The project will include runway 17 and 35. And it has some other section 10P, you guys don't probably know what that is. Application and pavement markings. The pre-design estimated cost of the project construction is $32,845. and the sponsor shall contribute 10% of the project. So that 10% cost is the $32,284.50. So that's 10% of the total cost of what this will be, the cost of application and pavement markings. And we do have that money coming from ARPA funds as well for our down payment. So it's not really going to be affecting, it's going to be a pass-through as well.
Go ahead.
You took the words right out of my mouth.
Well, yeah, I'm just, the way this is written, it just kind of threw me.
it's confusing.
Yeah, pre-design estimate cost is $32,845, the sponsor shall contribute 10, so they'll contribute 10, is that right?
No, we will contribute 10%.
Okay, so then the 10% of the estimated project cost is, again, $32,000.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
On the backside of that,
Yeah.
the ADOT grant agreement says $322,845.
That's total construction.
There's a missing 2 in that 32845.
Okay,
So it's actually 300,000.
Okay.
makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Okay. So yeah, 10%, that makes it a 320,000. I remember what it cost us $1 million to pave it originally, so this is like a third of the cost of the original
Yeah,
payment.
11 years later.
Yeah, and what, oil was, gas was $2 a gallon. Anyway.
It might, no, we had some 350 years back then.
Yeah, maybe so. All right, any more discussion besides Mike?
Yeah,
Mike.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Matt, I mean, can you explain what are the, you're saying, you know, what are the benefits? What are they gonna do exactly? I mean, it's vague, I mean, on the.
Yeah, so pretty much what they're going to be doing is they will come in, they'll clean the runway, and they'll crack seal the runway which it needs, and then they'll do, I believe, a seal over top, or a
1-inch overlay.
1-inch overlay, and then they'll do all the final pavement striping, which on the runway it's a lot of striping, and that's everything that they do.
Okay.
So it really rejuvenates it, adds a 1-inch overlay and the striping as well.
And our percentage is 32,800, so let's clarify this. So our 10% is 32, and we only have, and you have 12,000 of the 32 right now. Am I right? Is that what it says, balance in line? After we paid the 32?
That's after.
After we paid the 32, okay. Okay.
We can still afford a tank of gas.
Yeah.
And that 32,000 is coming from the ARPA funds. So it's also as a pass-through.
Okay.
Sorry for the confusion on some of that.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I could just add a comment. I happened to be here when we paved the runway 11 years ago. And $1 million runway, I believe a couple of you were on city council back in those days. And to make a long story short, the runway was a mess, and it was a total reconstruction. They took it right down to the bare bottom and started over from scratch. Of course, we were advised at that time that every 4 or 5 years we needed to do some crack sealing and some fog sealing and repaint the stripes. And here we are 11 years later. I happened to be here for a short period of time in 2019 when we were doing the budget, and I mentioned that the runway was starting to deteriorate to the point where we couldn't wait much longer to do the sealing project, and we didn't have any money like we've got now to spend on it at that time, and I suggested that since runways were really highways for airplanes, that we could use the street infrastructure fund to pay our share, which at that time was a little less than $30,000. My request was turned down, but fortunately, a couple of years later, with ARPA money, ADOT Aeronautics is now coming to us and saying, here's what you do. Now, Keep in mind, we have been cut off by FAA, okay? We get no federal dollars. We haven't been getting federal dollars for a good number of years. That includes project money, and that also includes our entitlement money, which I don't know when's the last time we got.
And what was the reason for that, Steve? Why we were?
The reason for that is because it's, I think it's a little bit off topic, but I will say it has to do with agreements for through the fence operation. I'd be happy to explain that to you.
Okay.
When it's not off topic.
Okay.
But the bottom line is, we are at that critical juncture right now. I am happy that ADOT Aero came forward with this money, and this is going to preserve the use of that runway probably for another 5 or 6 years without any real muss or fuss. In contrast, the adjoining taxiway is almost totally failed at this point, and we need to get something done with that too.
Thank you.
And just, this is kind of deals with this, we do get, as far as tourism, we do get quite a few, not as many as people that come in cars, but we still do get a good amount of people that fly in. I get calls maybe once, twice a month of people that are asking about it, and there's people that already know about it, but we still get a good amount of people that come through the airport to come see Bisbee.
Maybe next time you can give us an idea how much revenue generating from these. Yeah. So it will make it's a good public to know that this is it's a good thing for us.
Just roughly, on the average, how many people, including people that live in Bisbee that have their planes out there, and the people that come in probably utilize that a month, we think, just roughly? Because I know there's quite a few people in town that have planes out there, right?
Yeah, there's, I don't know how many private hangars there are exactly. I can guesstimate. We have a training class down there that has my mind is completely blank. Sorry, that trains new pilots on how to fly, and then we also have regular residents that come in too. So the school brings in a lot of people from all over the country, actually, because they have a certain plane that people like. Anyways, I would say probably around 30 to 60 people a month at a max, probably.
Thank you.
One thing you can look at is the fuel use. I always check that, and it seems like there's more fuel being bought out there than there has been in some past. So maybe we're seeing some uptick there too. Any other questions? Okay, well, sorry. Gotta wait.
Do we have a maintenance budget for this?
We have a building maintenance budget. We don't necessarily have a pavement maintenance budget.
The airport is a separate line budget on its own. So we buy fuel, we sell fuel, we make a little money off of that, rental off of our hangars and shade structures. So it's kind of an independent fund, but it's not, we always end up subsidizing it somewhat from the general fund.
Yeah.
Does that sound right?
Yeah, that's pretty close, but, and I really hate to say this with like 3 months left in the fiscal year, but it's actually in the black right now.
Yeah, that's unusual.
And that's an unusual feat.
So, yeah, that's how.
Increase them next year probably.
Okay. Any more? Wait, okay. All right. Let's have a motion.
I move to approve a grant agreement between the state of Arizona and the city of Bisbee.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve the grant agreement between the state of Arizona and the city of Bisbee for pavement reservation at the Municipal Airport. That will come in at $32,845. Roll call.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye. Motion passes 7-0.
Thank you, Mayor.
You bet. Take a seat. All righty. I swear, the state gives you more stuff than that. All right, here we are, we're up to 16. This is a discussion and possible approval to allow Bisbee Police Department to purchase an all-band consolette radio equipment in the amount of $8,520.48. Police chief. Go ahead.
Evening, Mayor, Council, City staff, members of the public. Coming today for hopefully the final piece of our puzzle for our radio project that we've been working on for the last 2 years. We're currently interfacing. As you know, we received our radio dispatch consoles from the county. They're long-term loaning them to us, so to speak, and we are their backup for CCOM. And so we're able to use their network and the county's networking part of their infrastructure. Our radios are they're radios, and they talk antenna, but a lot of them ride not only a microwave system, but also are IP-based, internet-based. The consolette that we're using to interface that system right now is located up on Juniper Flats. And it's a little bit too far away and causing us some problems. By purchasing our own, and is on loan to us from the county, by purchasing our own and locating that piece of equipment in the radio room at the police department, it's going to greatly increase and better our communications for police and fire via our radio networks. So I'm coming to you today hoping that we can get the approval to purchase this final piece.
Questions, comments?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
just to remind you again that this piece of equipment was one of the items that was discussed when we discussed what we would use our ARPA money for. And so, not only is it in the police department budget, but it will be backfilled out of ARPA.
Right.
Thank you.
Well, let's save a lot of driving up to Juniper Flat.
Yes.
Gas, we'll save gas money. Okay, seeing no other questions, entertain a motion.
I move to allow mayor and council to allow the Bisbee Police Department to purchase an all-band consulate radio equipment in the amount of $8,520.48.
Second?
We have a motion and a second for item 16, to allow the police department to purchase radio equipment in the amount of $8,220.48. Roll call.
Councilmember Hill.
Aye.
Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 7-0.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're moving on to item 17. This is discussion and possible approval of the updates of job descriptions for the fire department and the police department. And the personnel director, Joel.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, I'm bringing forward to you the job description updates for the fire department and the police department. The job description updates also have backup documentation that was also included when these job descriptions went to the Civil Service Commission. It was a special session, Wednesday, March 23rd, in which the Civil Service Commission recommended moving forward with the job description updates, including the starting rates of pay as listed for the police and fire departments. And all of those recommendations were unanimous. And currently, the positions, the employees holding those positions in our police and fire department are at or above the starting salary for what we're putting on these job descriptions. So there is no fiscal impact at this time, again, prior to budget. This is, again, just focusing on updating our job descriptions in order to be definitely up to date, because a lot of them were far out of date. And then also in referencing some other resources within the area, seeing that rather than the hourly rate being listed, which can be a turnoff, without understanding the scheduling for the fire department how we are regulated by the Federal Labor Standards Act in regards to their overtime. And so instead of an hourly rate, we're seeing a number of comparable cities and departments that are using the verbiage of an approximate annual base salary, which includes the FLSA overtime. And so that was changed on those. The police department did not have that same stipulation with changing the annual base salary. And again, updating just a few of the, some verbiage, and also education and experience, and making sure that we have consistent information on the education, experience, and certification for both the firefighter, EMT, and firefighter paramedic, as well as those positions when they move up into the lieutenant and captain category.
Questions?
I have concerns, I guess, more to say. You talk about the base pay, you add in the 384 or 364 hours of overtime for firemen. That's included in their wage, so, which sounds really great and fluffy until they have an emergency and somebody gets sick, and then they're not gonna get that wage because when they use their personal time off, that eats out of that overtime. Whereas your policemen have a base pay plus overtime. So if they get ill on the job or have a family emergency, they can still make that back up based on their overtime. And if you take away that 360, is it 360 hours? Is that what it is, 360 or 340? We'll just say 364. 364, 6 and 4 somewhere. 364 hours away, then it takes you back down to a minimal wage. And this is one of the reasons why we can't seem to hold people. We're becoming a stepping stone for Pavement and Elfrida. I mean, they're making more money. And if you look at your medic's pay, it's 20 cents below some of our lieutenants that have, 10 years experience. So it's almost like we're not showing any kind of prioritization to leadership and experience. This is my personal opinion, and this is something that I'm looking at. It just doesn't seem fair that we don't have an equitable wage for our firemen. And I get that the state has however many hours it is that they're getting, which is a substantial amount, I get that. But for them to be able to get that, having to work overtime just doesn't seem fair. And I know it's part of that job and the whole thing, but when you have other public servants that have a base wage plus overtime, and they're able to compensate back for that lost overtime if I have a family emergency, it just doesn't seem fair that for me to earn that kind of a wage, I have to spend it doing overtime away from my family. It seems like it's a greater cost. Again, comparatively to the surrounding areas, Douglas, Sierra Vista, Elfrida, and Palominas, our wage isn't very comparable. And again, that's why we're bleeding people out. There was something else that I can't remember. If you're gonna say something, go ahead.
I'm gonna say something. Well, first of all, this agenda item is to approve job descriptions. The debate over wages is a separate item. What you're approving tonight is no change over what we're doing right now. So that's a debate, that's another topic for another day. You are going to have an opportunity to have that discussion when we come to you with the budget. And there will be a recommendation from staff for the general increase for all employees, except the city manager, during the course of that week that we consider the budget. So I think that we need to save that discussion for later when it's more appropriate to do so.
We're talking about wages. I mean, that's.
Well, we're talking about
the job description that includes wages. As usual.
If I could make one comment, in 2019, when the fire department and city manager Coleman met to confer on the memorandum of understanding between the fire department and the city. At that time, it was requested that instead of firefighters only being eligible for their overtime once every 4 weeks, which is 212. So if they were scheduled and worked anything greater than 212 hours for their 10 shifts in the month, then that's when they got overtime. And the concern that was brought up was that exactly what you were mentioning. If they do have to take PTO, they do need to, take time away, personal illness, things of that nature. They lose out on the opportunity for overtime for a 4-week period. And so at that time, the request was to have our firefighters be eligible for overtime at every 2-week period. So, and for each pay period, if a firefighter works over 106 hours, they are eligible for overtime on that. So that does, it does help them. That is something that they requested. It was something that was approved and put forth to mayor and council at the time. So again, that was just, I wanted to mention that is addressed, and that was changed in that MOU, but at least an effort was made there to try and do something to acknowledge that concern that you brought up.
I have a question on that.
Well, one other comment I might make, being I came from the service, was it really, when you try to compare other departments and job descriptions, it doesn't matter if you go to Elfrida or you go anywhere else, they're under that same overtime situation. So it doesn't matter if they want to switch jobs, it has nothing to do with salary. They're gonna lose their overtime in another fire department the same as they would lose here. So this is standard across the whole country.
Which in regard to your personal time off, do we buy that back from them if it's not used?
We do not have a policy for that at this time.
So they lose it in other words, if it's not used.
As all city employees.
There is a maximum PTO carryover.
Which applies to all city employees.
Yeah. It's not.
But I thought we're not comparing it.
No, we're talking job description.
No, we are when we want to, and we aren't when we don't.
That's right.
All right, any other questions, comments? Entertaining motion?
I move to approve the updates to the job descriptions for the fire department and police department.
I second.
A motion and a second to approve the job descriptions for police and fire departments. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Nay.
Motion passes 6-1.
Thank you.
You bet. Moving on to item 18. This will be discussion of possible approval of notice of intent to adopt ordinance O-2206, accepting the transfer of real property from Southeast Arizona LLC located at 105 E Street, Bisbee. City Manager Pop.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a property that was purchased by Southeast Arizona Renovations. Who you are familiar with, who has bought several properties and donated them to the city once they've been renovated. This particular property is, you can actually see it from Highway 80 when you go past on E Street. It's currently being renovated, should be finished within 3 or 4 weeks. The purpose of the transfer to the city is so that it can go into the inventory of the city's workforce housing program and hopefully be, I shouldn't say auction, I should say, entered into a lottery for workforce level people to be able to pull their name out of the hat and purchase the property. And of course, by that time, we'll know what the costs are, what the value, I should say, of the house is, and we are able to discount fair market value of that house by 20% to make it more affordable. So, staff recommends accepting the transfer.
Questions or comments?
I have a question.
Okay, go ahead.
So the $1.50 is the fair market value, is that what you're saying? Or is that the real value and then there's another? That's right.
I think what we're going to do is when we're actually done doing the renovations, we'll have a realtor come and do a fair market analysis using local comps.
Okay.
That's because I wasn't sure.
Yeah, and then, once we know what those are, we'll probably take like the lowest comp, and then we'll discount that by about 20%.
Get on Campbell. Anything else? Oh, go ahead.
Where's East Street?
Oh, it's in Saginaw?
Ward 1. You left out. No, I'm just kidding. You don't have to know it. All right, any other? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on this one.
I move that we approve ordinance 0-22-06, accepting the transfer of real property from Southeast Arizona Renovations LLC located at 105 East Street, Bisbee.
Second.
Have a motion and a second for item number 18 to approve ordinance O-2206. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hill. Councilmember Giacomino.
Aye.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Councilmember Johns.
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet.
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein.
Aye.
Mayor Budge.
Aye, motion passes 7-0. All right, this will be item number 19. I'll have Mr. Taylor introduce this. I have one person signed up. So this will be to approve ordinance O-2205, authorizing the sale and transfer of city property located adjacent to OK Street to Jennifer and Wilton Dietz.
Okay. Mayor and council, this is another COVID property. This is, that was part of that queue that was started during COVID. This was, the applicants are Jennifer and Wilton Dietz. The property that they're applying for is 1,285 square feet. When the Dietz purchased the property at 151A OK Street in Bisbee, there was a shed on their property, and I'm sure they were glad to get it. It turns out the shed was on city property, so they bought a place that they thought had a shed, and it was actually on city property. The value determined at the time of application was $1.50 a square foot, and that would bring this total to $1,927.30. Historically, this has been used by the property owners. I'm sure they believe they owned the property, or they wouldn't have put the shed on it. The Planning and Zoning Commission, at a meeting held on March 17th, voted to approve the transfer of this portion, and that is the area around the shed. I have unfortunately put the Dietz through a lot of expensive hoops in this process, and I would like to end my report there.
All right. Ms. Dietz.
I simply wanted to let you all know I was here if you had any questions.
Okay, I just got you here on the sign-up sheet, so questions, I'll turn it over to council. Go ahead.
My question is this the property that Monica Patience was talking about at the other meeting?
It was this is a piece of it. She was worried about the part that touches OK Street where the parking was. This does not include that portion. This only includes the very upper low part of it that is associated with their property and has a shed on it. So,
not really.
Okay, so then my other question is, didn't you survey this property prior to purchase to realize that it was not included on your property?
We did have a survey.
And they didn't pick it up?
No, we knew that it was not on it, and that's why we embarked on this process. We purchased the home in March, and we put this request in June.
So I misspoke.
My question is also, why are we going with the whole evaluation? You said earlier with the other property that now it's up to us, and the property values have gone up, so why are we sticking to the 150 rather than what's?
Well, this property has a shed on it that has been historically used by that property and should really have been at some point squared away early on. I feel that the property that they were looking to pay for when we were talking, we've had this number as it was assigned by staff back in, I think, 2021. This property had an entire number, the entire property was going for $1.50 a square foot. Since that time, we have gotten an opinion from a realtor that we should be charging a minimum of $5 for property, but it's also based on value of the property. This was based on, I think, and I'm winging it here because I can't really remember, but I believe there were 8 new parking spaces that would have been created on that property, and that perhaps $1.50 a square foot was too small a fee for that. But this is a piece that nobody can get to other than the applicant. It is of no value to anyone because it's just a little adjacent part of a larger parcel that the city owns. But the portion with the parking is really where the bang for the buck is, and at $1.50 that may have been inappropriate, but at $5 this piece, or even $3 this piece of property, a square foot would be inappropriate, I believe, because if you take an acre at 43,560 square feet and you multiply it by, well, even $1.50, we're talking $60,000 an acre. And if we talk about it at $3, we're talking, what, $150,000?
Doug, you can do calculation like this. You're talking about large property. I mean, you can't wholesale and retail. It's a completely different. You can just justify it. I mean, you can say, well, the property is of no use. Maybe it will make sense, but for you to do this, if we had bought it an acre versus, I think that
Actually, I think that's a really appropriate analysis for the sale of property, and I advocate the $5 a minimum square foot when the property is developable, or a parking space or something in that order, as a minimum. But I do feel that I have put them through many hoops, and I feel that $1.50 a square foot is a fair value for that little piece of property that nobody else would want.
Just one quick note. This discussion's gone round and round a lot, I know. The way I like to look at it is what's it's available to whomever. So in other words, the further it gets away from a street and more stairs you gotta climb to get to it, the value goes down. That's the way most all of these lots, if it's not buildable, if it's buildable, if it does it have sewer, water, so on and so forth. So all those things are in consideration. The last part why I agree with the 150 is that they basically set this price back when it's our fault that we haven't been able to hold an auction for almost 2.5 years. Yeah, and so a lot of this increase has come about in the last couple of years, so I hate to, hold people up and then jack the price up later. If we were talking big bucks like a huge...
I don't have a problem with it, but the issue at the beginning of this when we were discussing the other property, it was up to us, we don't have to, even
and it was...
council person was saying, it will be up to us, we don't have to stick to what we have done. Up to us, and you see yourself saying that. And I'm just trying to clarify it, so it's clear that what we're doing and what we're trying to do, rather than just saying, justifying where we don't need justification.
No, you're completely correct, it's in your purview. I have been working very hard to clear these properties out of the queue because people were promised prices that we can't even imagine now because actually no full acre is being sold. But I do feel that at $5 it's probably of that value. We found 2 weeks ago at the auction that a piece of Star Avenue that people would have thought was nothing. It has a ravine in it that's about 30 feet deep. And that went for $3 a square foot, which I was quite shocked at.
Anyway, we are so apples and oranges in this whole town, especially old Bisbee anyway, that it's very subjective, but you are absolutely right. Now, ultimately, the mayor and council has the right to set the price, and somebody can make a motion to change or whatever. My commitment is I also want to try to get these off the queue. They've been sitting around for 2 years, and I hate to jack it up just because we've been holding them up.
We just, the precedents, my concern, like I said, is not the issue of this, and I know Jeff does, and he tries to come up with the best solution, there's no question. But we have to just, when we set the precedent, when we start saying, I feel it should, you know, we either feel or don't feel. We have to make, how do we go about this from now on? Just all.
I know, just, Anna's got one first. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, so are there any other properties, any other homeowners that are affected by this?
No, not on this property, no. And I do
I brought
believe,
maps and stuff if you all want to see them. I'm happy.
Well,
I do believe that this is the last of the COVID properties. Everybody put a mask on, it's the last one, yeah.
I guess mine's more for clarification, so where the shed is located, it is not accessible by anything, it's like up on a hill?
Yes, it's
So
up
there's
on
no
almost
car
a cliff.
availability, it's just,
No,
oh, it's
not
just
at
like
all.
the backyard?
Yeah, if you
Your
look at
backyard leads to the shed.
if you look at the survey, it
That's
shows
what I
where
was
it's
trying
located.
to-
And that's probably at least a 30-foot climb from the street there, maybe more.
No, go ahead,
who else?
because Anna answered the other question.
I'm getting sorted.
Tennis.
Anyone else? Yes, there you go. Anyone else? Well, oh, okay.
Please summarize what you're requesting.
We're requesting to sell to the deeds 1,285 square feet at $1.50 a square foot, and that is a total of $1,927.5.
That has a shed on it they've been using.
Yeah.
I do know what we're pushing.
Okay.
So,
Anyway.
this may sound really dumb, but when you bought the house, I guess, can I ask them?
Yeah.
When you bought the house, did it include the shed? Or, I'm confused with that part. Yeah.
So the survey showed us where the boundaries were, and the surveyor said this shed is not on your property, it's on city property. There is a procedure by which you could request it. It's been used, and most people, I mean, I know that's the way it is, but we wanted to make it right, so that's why we you know, if we're using it, we want to be responsible for it. There is a wall there that will also assume responsibility for consequently.
Can we get that right?
It's in the survey.
On the record.
So,
And the survey says?
All right. This is, we only have one more after this.
I move that we approve ordinance 0-22-05, authorizing the sale and transfer of city property located adjacent to OK Street to Jennifer and Wilton Dietz.
Second?
I have a motion and a second to approve ordinance O-2205, authorizing the sale and transfer property located on OK Street to Jennifer and Wilton Dietz. All those, roll call please.
Councilmember Hill?
Yay.
Councilmember Giacomino?
Aye.
Councilmember Davis?
Aye.
Councilmember Johns?
Aye.
Councilmember Sweet?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Klein?
Aye.
Mayor Budge?
Aye. Motion passes 7-0. All right. Item number 20. This will be a discussion possible approval of resolution R-2207. This is a resolution of the mayor and council supporting No Mow May. This will be for Councilmember Joni.
So, do I read the discussion part first?
Well, that's.
My call. Okay, so the city of Bisbee, or I'm proposing the city of Bisbee to encourage interested residents to increase pollinator-friendly habitat by encouraging pollinator-friendly lawn care practices on their own properties for the month of May. A resolution of mayor and council of the city of Bisbee, county co-chief, state of Arizona, supporting no mow May. Whereas insects, especially bees, serve a significant and critical role as pollinators of plants, including agricultural plants, and whereas the ideal pollinator-friendly habitat is one comprised of mostly native flowers, grasses, vines, shrubs, and trees blooming in succession throughout the growing season, and whereas the formative period for establishment of pollinator and other insect species and the many songbirds and other urban wildlife species that depend on them occur in late spring and early summer as they emerge from dormancy and require flowering plants as crucial foraging habitat. And whereas No Mow May is a community science initiative that encourages property owners to limit lawn mowing practices during the month of May to provide early season foraging resources for pollinators that emerge in spring, especially in urban landscapes when few floral resources are available. And whereas the city of Bisbee would like to encourage interested residents to increase pollinator-friendly habitats by encouraging pollinator-friendly lawn care practices on their own properties for the month of May during this formative period. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the city of Bisbee recognizes No Mow May to actively promote and educate the community about the critical period of pollinator emergence, generation of crucial pollinator support habitat, and early spring foraging opportunities. I'd like to add to that bats also, but I would also like to add to it, this is not a proposal to let everything go crazy with Bermuda grass that's 14 feet tall. This is to encourage native plants, flowers in particular, many of which were mentioned, dandelions, crabgrass clover, as well as our native desert plants, especially the tubular plants that are now getting ready, that are coming out, the penstomes on the side of the roads, plus the sages that are now starting to bloom. It's very important because much of the habitat for bees and other pollinators is being destroyed, and if you are practicing a true No Mow May, you are manicuring to a point that does not destroy the flower habitat, but you are still cutting down the wild grasses and such that cause fire issues. So that's something I want to point out to make sure that that is still kept in check, but to let your clovers and your dandelions propagate. The other positive aspect of it too is it really takes less watering if you let it grow because it keeps the moisture in. So that's a water saving thing for the city on the park. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that blurb in. But anyway, there's a lot of information about No Mow May. It's practiced nationwide. Actually, many countries in Europe also do something similar to No Mow May. And again, it is to help the pollinators to propagate and to survive. We do have a lot of wildflowers, desert wildflowers that will be coming out soon. Although May can be a dry period of time, we do get rain and we do get a lot of wildflowers. I'm already getting blooming in my yard. So, anybody want to add?
I'd just like to echo what you said about, the wild grass, the buffalo grass and all that. That could be mowed down. We're talking about flowers, pollinating plants. Because there was some concern for fire-wise about this because of that.
Right.
But I think it's a common sense issue.
If you see a bird or a bee on it, then you know they like it, so most of the time they don't hang out on the grass. So the only thing that hangs out those are those little biting gnats.
Yeah.
I hate those.
I'll be taking that time off for vacation.
Yeah, they hang out for wet grass.
June, July.
There you go. He knows what most is like.
You have any, okay, well, make a motion and we'll.
I make a motion that we approve resolution R22-07, a resolution of mayor and council supporting No Mow May.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve resolution R2207 to make us a No Mow May supporting city. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Hearing none. Chair determines the ayes have it. No more item 20. Now we're on 21. All right. Item 21 is the city manager's report.
I've only got about 45 minutes worth of stuff.
Yeah, well,
Okay, I'm leaving.
we're gonna take a 45-minute break.
No, just one item. As you know, there were 2 or 3 items on the agenda tonight that you approved for expenditures that ultimately will be coming out of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, funds that we received last July of approximately $872,000. Just wanted to let you know that what you've approved so far, because as you remember, we put a list together, and the provision of putting that list together was that when we actually wanted to spend money on one of those items, we would come back to you for approval. So far, what you've approved out of that $872,000 is $365,000 to the closest thousand. So now there's still a few rather large ticket items that we haven't expended yet. As you will recall, there were air conditioning for the library for 2 fire stations, and probably a couple other big ticket items. We also have on that list backfilling because of COVID absences, which is one of the main reasons why the ARPA funding was dispensed to the cities and towns in the United States, was to backfill for those absences and that occurred in the dollar value of those. That dollar value is $200 and something thousand, which we have not backfilled yet because we wanted to wait till closer to fiscal year to see where we were. I think while our list is higher than $872,000, I don't think we ever figured that we were going to spend it all in the first year anyway. We do have 5 years to spend it. We will be getting another distribution probably around the first week of July of the same amount of money. Sometime after the fiscal year starts, we'll probably do a work session and revisit some of what we've done and see if there's any new ideas that you may want to add to the list. So it's like I say, it's a lot of money, but at the same time we do have some rules that we have to follow, and I think that so far I'm very happy with the way we've been able to use the money. Unfortunately, air conditioning for the buildings that have been identified is not as easy as buying an air conditioner and plopping it on a roof. There's structural engineering involved, there's electrical engineering involved, and in fact we've kind of changed strategy a couple times on the library because that building is something close to 120 years old now, and simply taking off swap boxes and throwing on condensing units just won't happen without doing a little engineering. In fact, it's been proposed to us that we may want to do it differently than just having the same kind of ductwork and cooling system on the roof, that may in fact be more effective and maybe even less costly than doing a traditional air conditioning system. So we're still working on that. It's still out there. We have, just as an aside, one of the things that you approved was automatic defibrillators for all the city buildings that didn't currently have one, and of course we bought 5 units and discovered that we've got a couple more places. So we're going to be adding 3 more to the list with your concurrence to make sure that we get all the city facilities. And Lieutenant Klein has done 2 training sessions. I was told when we bought them that no training required, it gives you all the instructions. And I said, well, I would rather see it anyway. And so the City Hall staff in 2 sessions yesterday were able to walk through the procedure of using an automatic defibrillator. And I think we all feel a little bit more relieved that if it actually has to be used, which we hope it doesn't, we've at least seen somebody do it once so that we can operate it effectively. So, and then you did also originally approve 1 light pack defibrillator for one of the ambulances, and then we came back to you later on and asked for a 2nd unit because we had a grant application out. We didn't get the grant. So that unit, I don't believe has arrived yet. It's another one of those deals with the supply chain, holding up deliveries on stuff, so hopefully that will be with us soon, and we'll have two, perfectly modern light pack units on the two frontline rigs, so we're doing real well. We're taking our time doing what we need to do to get it done, but get it done right. So probably, and if you look at your, the monthly financial statements that you receive every month, we do now have it listed as a separate budget. It's, Fund 79, in the financial statements. You assigned the numbers. And it does, right now have a list of everything that's been either purchased or backfilled with ARPA money since you authorized the expenditures to take place. So I think the whole city benefits from this. We're not using it to pay wages. But we are able to use it to pay for things that can be better used, paying wages for, so that's helping us out as we go. So thank you for what you've done so far, and we'll be back to you for more as time goes on. That's all I have there.
Okay, indulgence, are you thinking of an automatic defibrillator for this meeting room area here by chance?
Actually, yes, because we can, once
we can move it with us.
Once we build the new city hall building, we'll need more than one defibrillator
on each floor. Yeah, okay, that'd be great, because this is a lot more public than.
Well, and this is a room where heart attacks could occur.
Tell me about it.
Excuse me, forgive me, I misspoke. Cardiac arrest could occur. I learned that in school.
I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
I would make a motion to adjourn.
Second?
A motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. So moved. We are adjourned.